Tulalip Tribes is dedicated to improving our ancestral lands and waters throughout the region. Known as the Salmon People, with a deep commitment to living out the teachings of our ancestors, we continue to build a stronger future for everyone. One Tulalip elder has spent his entire life living out these ancestral teachings. Don Penoke Hatch has made a career out of giving back to our local communities. With more than 40 years serving between the Tulalip Board of Directors and the Marysville School Board, he has worked tirelessly to build a strong future for our youth. His dedication and support of youth sports was a driving force for the creation of the Tulalip Boys and Girls Club. Join us today as we sit down with Don Hatch and learn more about his life as a leader and a voice for our youth. Hi, welcome to Hibulb Conversations. I'm Mytyl Hernandez, and today we're here with Don Hatch. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Most people know you as Penoke. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that name?
Well, that name came out about the time that movie came out, Pinocchio, and my uncle Raymond Freiberg Sr., he threw that name on me because he always nicknamed different ones of his nieces and nephews, and so I end up with Pinocchio. Oh. And so I just accepted it, and a lot of people call me Penoke now, so I'm kind of short for that. Yeah. So that stuck with me, and I don't have a problem with it.
Yep, your whole life.
All my whole life, and I'm 78 now, and it's just like call me Don.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And do you have an Indian name?
Yes, Sparabkid, and it came from my great-grandmother's husband. It's Big Charlie. That was his Indian name, was Sparabkid, and so that's my Aunt Winnie and my mother, because they were the ones that were alive out of the family, and the one that put that on me. So, and there's a lot of things you have to do to be able to maintain it, and you just have to respect everybody, and that's some of the things I try to do and work with people and help people.
Oh, that's wonderful. Will you tell us a little bit about your parents?
My mother was Molly Hatch, Catherine. Her maiden name was Freiberg. That was Andrew and Louise Freiberg's daughter, and my dad was Donald Charles Hatch Sr., and his mom was Helen, and his dad was Arthur Hatch Sr., and his nickname was Bub. Mm.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have I had one brother, and he got killed in a car wreck in 1969. I have five sisters. That three of them left. I have two of them that passed on. Mm.
When you were growing up, did a lot of people still speak our language?
Not many. Well, my mother did, and all my aunts and uncles, they speak the language, but a lot of times they would speak it if we were around, so we wouldn't know what they're talking about, because if they're talking about us or talking about somebody else, so we never really had a chance to really learn the language, and we was too busy playing basketball, baseball, or going swimming on the beach. So it was one that we felt that, we had more fun. All of us kids living in Hermosa, we had more fun playing with each other than we had in the house with the adults.
And what was Hermosa like around that time?
Well, we had about, my grandmother and grandfather, Andrew Freiberg, had about 25 grandchildren up and down Hermosa Road, and we all played together, whether it was on the beach swimming, or we had a chance in the wintertime slide down the big hill, and my Uncle Lawrence made a big bobsled for all of us, and we just had a chance to just do a lot of things. But we didn't have any bicycles, we didn't have things, but we went out in the woods and made forts out there in the woods, and just had pine cone fights, we had fern fights, we had, but we didn't have to have anything. We never had rock fights. That's one thing about it. We never had rock fights, but not to hurt anybody, but we just had a lot of fun doing that. And we had two people out of our cousins that played the gorillas, and that was the oldest one. And Michelle, one of them was your grandpa, was Herman Williams, and the other one was Clyde, and they'd chase us through the woods, and we'd just be going all over the place out in the woods. It was really interesting. Yeah.
It's changed a lot, Hermosa.
Oh, it changed, you know, sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad, because there's a lot of things happening no matter what community we're in now, and whether it's drugs or fast cars or what it is now. There's a lot of things happening in all of our communities now.
And what was it like to grow up on the reservation?
Well, it was kind of tough at a young age to look at it, you know, because when I was born at the government hospital, that little hospital that everybody talks about, I was born there in 1939, and had a chance to, you know, go there when I was sick, and you know, my mom would bring me over there, but you know, the hospital was really a savior for a lot of us Indian people, that young people that went there. But growing up there was really great though. I think we just had so much fun there though.
Mm-hmm. Made the best of it.
Yes.
Will you tell us a little bit about your wife? When and where did you meet her?
I met her at Muckleshoot at a ball game down there at Muckleshoot. We went down and played ball down there, and we had Tulalip played Muckleshoot, and I met her down there, and you know, it's probably about 2 years after I met her that her and I got married, and you know, she was only 17, but you know, we got together and we got married. We had four children, and we adopted one child though afterwards. So we had one boy and 3 girls, birth children, but we adopted one boy.
Okay. Where did you go to school?
Marysville.
Marysville
High School.
Marysville High School.
Yes, that was really it was tough.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you, with a lot of the, you know, and everybody talks about a lot of things and a lot of discrimination. You look at what happened in school and things that happened, and a lot of things, the rough times I had in school, it was really tough. That I never told my kids until after they turned about 30 or 35. I didn't tell them how bad it was and how rough it was in the public school here. But I didn't tell them all the bad things that happened to me. Mm-hmm. But there was some bad things, not just from the kids, but from the staff. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really rough.
What year did you graduate?
59.
59. Did you play any sports in school?
It was pretty rough about it because we had to walk, you know, because when we went to practice and I played as far as the junior high, then, you know, it was pretty hard though because we had to walk all the way home. There was no buses or nothing to bring you home. And when you lived all the way out in Hermosa, you had to kind of hitchhike, and if you missed 2 cars or 3 cars, you're out of luck. And that's all it was, is not very much traffic out here. You could walk down the middle of the road a lot of times and never get hit by a car because all the cars that were going home, in the summer there was a lot of cars because they had summer homes. But when the summer was over with, everybody moved back to where it was, Everett or Seattle or wherever they were from, and it was pretty hard to get rides back and forth. But we had a lot of fun though, and walking home a lot of times, playing ball together. But it was really rough. That was the roughest part, is have to get to practice and be able to get home. And that was the tough part about practice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all of this with us. We'll be right back with more Hibulb Conversations. Welcome back to Hibulb Conversations. We're here with Penoke. Penoke, talking about schools, did you have any relatives that attended our boarding school?
Yes, I did. I had my mother that went to boarding school, and she talked to. I asked her some questions on that, and I had a relative up at Lummi that talked about the boarding school. Then I seen the video about my aunt Rose Freiberg talking about the government school. There's a lot of things that my mother talked about the government school, how it taught her how to work, you know, how to do certain things, and she just had positive things that happen. So there's a lot of things I read about and I see and everything, and people talk about how bad the government school is. You know, we could look at, you know, any school we go to, and there's different opinions on a school, but as well as my relative up at Lummi, you know, Alice, you know, Alexander Solomon, she talked about the government school, and she talked about positive things up there, besides what I seen on my Aunt Rose talking about on the video. And there's a lot of things that, you know, I think about as a government school and what happens, because one of the things I talked to my mother about, I says, how late was the latest that you got a chance to go home? Because, you know, when she was at the government school, she could see her home, her mom and dad's home, and from the dining hall there and at the school. So she says the latest she had to go home, got to go home in the summertime, it was right after the 4th of July. So when somebody says it's only 2 weeks they got to go home, but she says she lived it, and she says, you know, it was a couple of months they got to go home. That was the longest they had to stay away from, you know, from not being able to go home. So they got to go home for a couple of months in the summertime to be able to see things. But there's so many positives and ups and downs at that school, because in fact, the ball field that the school played in, I played in as youngster at where it was at, you know, and even the gym that was utilized by the government school, I played in basketball with all my relatives from Hermosa too. We did a lot of things there at that, in the ball field and the gymnasium that government school had. And we played in a lot of the buildings as 8 and 9 year olds, and played in a lot of the buildings down there. So there's a lot of things that we as relatives got a chance to live and see some of the things that were there, and be able to talk to our family and say, what was this, you know? So I see so many negative things, but there's a lot of positives out of it too, because my mother said the biggest thing she took away from that thing, the one biggest thing she took away is she learned how to work. And I felt really good about what she said on that thing. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's something that's not often heard, is other sides of positive impacts of boarding schools. What year did you graduate again?
59.
59. So you graduated in 59. Did you go to work right away?
Fishing.
Fishing?
Fishing. Yeah, I did a lot of fishing with my uncle and all of them, and that was one thing. We had that video on there about fishing, you know, and the humpy year. But you know, I want to talk about the even year, which only runs the Kings, and there's only about 3 or 4 boats out in the water. But you know, we did a lot of that thing for my Uncle Lawrence. There was with 3 of my cousins, you know, John Henry, Arlie Williams, and Leroy Freiberg, and myself, and we fished a lot on there, and we just grew closer together when we did this as a family. And just like David said on that video, that when you fish together, you really grow up together, and you're really close to each other, like brothers instead of cousins, and that was really positive. But you know, you go back to on odd year when the humpies come in, when we fished, you know, there was a lot of comments about when you did things with a net, you did things, you know, and you went to the camp, you build your camp down there. Majority part of the time when we went down there to camp on the beach was in July, first part of July. Then we moved off the beach about the second week in September, because there was no fish down there before. If we went down there early in June, there's a few kings down there, but not enough to be able to really survive on. So majority part of the time we didn't go down there until the humpy started moving in, and we all went down there to build our camps. And we then majority of us, when we went to school, when we were kids there and played on the humpy year, the older ones stayed until the middle part of September. Then they moved the camps home, because it was too cold to live down there on the beach then. You know, just like right now, the weather's changing. That's the same thing about living on the beach. You just wanted to get out of there. But you know, fishing was, I just wish that all of us could live that over again, because the life that was on the beach was just tremendous. And I just wish that everything could change and we could turn the clock back and do it again.
What was your first job after fishing?
After fishing was doing carpenter work. I went to school, went on relocation with the government relocated a lot of us in different places, and I went to school down in Seattle, and they called it Edison Tech then, on about 23rd and just off 23rd and Jackson up there, and I went to carpenter school down there for a little over a year. Then I went to work down there in Mercer Island, did a few odd jobs and different things. Then the weather got bad, and I ended up moving away from the carpenter program because there was no jobs to be had, and I was only apprentice, so I couldn't get any jobs. And that one whole winter, I just had to beg for jobs because it was so cold and nobody was building anything, so it was a struggle. So I ended up working in a mill from there. I worked in a mill, and I worked on the pond, and it was a lot of fun doing that. Run around on logs and spike shoes and just do different things. But that was really tremendous. Then from there, I went to in 1972. I went to work for the Snohomish County PD.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I worked in them for 20 years and felt that it was one that I seen a lot of different part of life working off the reservation, just like working in the mill. You're working off the reservation, and it was really interesting because there's so much things that happen negatively there as well, and people calling you chief and calling you different things, and it was pretty tough. And it took about 18 years working there before we got really a good diversity program at the Snohomish County PD. And everybody call you what they wanted to call you, and that was really a tough job.
Right.
But I weathered the storm. Not many people could weather a storm, something like that, and that was almost the same thing going to Marysville School District. As a youngster, there was a lot of things you had to live with,
right?
Or just quit school and disappear.
And you enjoyed it all.
Oh, I enjoyed it all. Then I left in 20 years and retired from there, and went to work with the tribe in education, and from then, and went back and forth off in the council. And I ran for the council 6 times, got elected 6 times, left on my own 6 times. I was off about 3 or 4 years, and I'd run again, get elected, and leave again after about 5 or 6 years, and run again, get elected again. I don't think anybody's going to beat that record. 6 times I got elected when I just left, but I just felt that I had to get out. I just felt there needed to be a change for myself. And, but it was interesting. I worked almost all my life. If I looked at myself and says, in about, since I was about 22 years old, I've been unemployed about a month and a half.
Wow.
And being on and 78 years old.
Wow.
And I'm really proud of that because I was always looking for something else to do all the time.
Yep.
It was interesting.
Yep. I'd like to hear more about the board. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with more Hibulb Conversations. Welcome back to Hibulb Conversations. We're here talking with Penoke. Penoke, you were first elected to the board in 1965. How old were you at that time?
26.
26. What was it like to be such a young board member?
It was scary. It was scary because how it really happened was one of my parents, my little leaguers, says, we're going to run you on a tribal council. And I said, okay. I didn't even go to the general council when that did. And I was at a basketball tournament that night or the day of the election, so I didn't even pay attention. That's how interested I was going at it. And when I got back from the basketball game, I found out I got elected, So it was really interesting, but it was kind of scary because when I first got on, it says, and I wanted to listen to all all the veterans on there, and I wanted to hear what they had to say. And I got a little bit of criticism from some of the members because he says, "How come you always make second emotions all the time? You don't make any motions." I said, "Because there's some experience on here, and I want to learn from them. And when they make the motion, and I agree with them, I'm going to do that because I want to be able to learn what it's about before I start making motions on how to do things on a tribal council." And that was a really interesting first year because I wanted to do that. But I got criticized for it from the membership, though, for that.
So you were just appointed by your community?
No, I was elected. I was elected, and I was only elected for 1 year. Then I had to run the following year again because I was replacing somebody. I think it was Auntie Mariah was resigned, and I filled that position. Then I come in and ran the following year and got elected.
Do you remember who was on the board with you at that time?
He's all I can remember is George Williams, Herman Williams. The first year I was on there.
Ralph Jones?
No, he wasn't on there yet. No.
Was Bernie?
Bernie was. I don't think he was on there either.
Stan?
Stan got on the year after I did.
Okay.
Had to have been Bernie. Gosh, I can't even remember who was on there now.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah. I wish I would have thought about that before I come up here, but I didn't really think too much about it.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So in a stretch of 44 and a half years, you served for 29 and a half of those on the toilet board.
Yes.
That's impressive.
Yes.
Will you tell us about some of the work you accomplished over those 29 and a half years?
Well, one of the things I always try to partake in is being a people person, somebody that anybody could talk to, no matter what happens. You know, if they're scared, a lot of times people are scared to talk to council members or things. I want to play the part of you're able to talk to me anytime, no matter where I'm at. And that was probably my biggest thing. Because as elections went on and different things, I always put on my campaign sign, being a people person, because that's been all my life. I want to be able to do things for people all the time. And so I tried to stay on a service committee to be able to help them, whether it was education or recreation or health or whatever the program is. I want to be able to, I think that was probably my biggest ticket, the issues, and be able to help make it happen.
Be a voice for the people.
Yes.
How has the board changed from your first term to your last?
I think a lot of things, I think it's probably more experience when they come in there. A lot of the ones that are in there come in there with more experience and involved in a lot of different things. And it's pretty rough sometimes to be able to, figure what to do and the change that's happened now. And I just want them to be able to have more of a working relationship, because sometimes I wonder if they're in there, I feel, is a change is not to work for themselves, but to work for everybody. Work for all the members, not just for themselves. And that's a tough part, I think, being open-minded and not be, I'm going to say the difference between working on a school board and on a tribal council is a lot different, because we did a lot of micromanaging on the tribal council and the school board. We didn't do any micromanaging because we only hired one person, that was a superintendent. And that was a tough part for me to see what happened. Still trying to work at where they let the staff run the tribe, and they just set policies in there. So, and I think that's some of the things I think we need to look forward to right now and try to make that happen. So, but to make sure that your idea is how much it's going to cost, and make sure that all the expenses are in there when you talk about we want to build certain things, whether it's a swimming pool, whether it's a new ball field, or what do you want to have, what it's going to cost to maintain, besides building it, because sometimes we build things and we forget about the M&O that in the cost of things, and that's what I think we have to look more at and make sure that we know what the expenses are. And I just think that's some of the things I think that the board ought to think about a lot more.
And over your 29 and a half years, I'm sure you were a part of some very big projects. Do you want to tell us about that?
Well, I think some of the things, I think partly on both opening the bingo parlor as well as things happening, you know, because we look at a lot of things that happened up there at Boynes, because I think a lot of things at Boynes. And, you know, what we could have, it was really scary to think about, you know, the thoughts are out there at a young age. Do we want to keep the Boynes? Do we want to sell Boyne? You know, and that would have really messed us up where we're at right now, and the growth we have with all the, you know, the outlet mall and as well as the casino and all the business we have up there in the town of Quilceda, and just to make it more successful. But I think that a lot of things that we have done has really been great to the two casinos. Now to tear one down and going to build another one, and that's tremendous. And to have a police force and a judicial system that's going to be there that they could take do a better job, I guess, what's going to be there. And just make it more better than what we have. It's like what we did here. We put all the artifacts in where they should be, so the growth could be here, and that's part of our culture, and not stuffed in the back vault like it used to be.
Right. Able to share.
Yes.
Would you have any advice for board members today?
Well, one thing about it being more of a team effort, I think that's one of the things I kind of emphasize. I did go to the board a couple times about, you know, making sure they work closer together, and because anytime, as myself and somebody else, if I was a council member and I was fighting with somebody else, the community knows it's happening. The staff knows it, so they know they can do it likewise. And if I have as a council member chew a staffer out, then they know that anybody could chew a staffer out then, you know.
Yeah.
So we got to make sure we do what should be done, and that's let the staff, you know, run it the way it should be done, and don't try to micromanage what needs to be completed at whether it's a general manager down to all the way down to what the position lowest paid job is. Got to be able to take care of them all. And that's what you need as a people person, to be able to do all these things all the way through.
Yep.
Thank you.
That's great advice. Tulalip has spent this last year celebrating women, and it started with Marie's election as chair. You served many years with Marie. Were you excited that she got chair?
No, I think it's really tremendous that women could get in a position like that, whether it's the chair or vice chair and secretary and treasurer. You know, it was all four of them. That's the way it's can be. You know, but I think that you look at a lot of different tribes that have women chairwomen, and they do a tremendous job. So I didn't have no problem with that, because it's the struggle I seen that the women have on the outside working at Snohomish County PD and watching some of the things that happened there, and myself as a minority going in there and working in the line department and watching some of the women starting going in the line department. They had a lot of resentment towards them by the men, and I supported them all the way and argued with a lot of the guys, because you know, I felt the same way they did and was treated similar to what they were. So I always wanted to support the ladies, no matter what they want, you know, they wanted to venture into, because we need to have the best we can have and make it happen, and see what happens and how positive things can happen. And there's a lot of things positive. We just have to work together in a team effort, no matter if there was 7 women on there or 7 men. You know, we just have to work together to make it happen. And I think Marie, as a leader, can do that in the position she holds right now.
Yep. That's so much good information that you've shared with us today. I know there's a lot more we want to talk about. Since that's all the time left, join us for part 2, will you?
I will, yes. Thank you.
Thank you for watching Hibulb Conversations. Be sure to watch part 2 with Penoke. I'm Mytyl Hernandez. Thanks for watching.